In November 2022, the world was stunned by the tragic and untimely death of Aaron Carter, a former teen idol, pop sensation, and the younger brother of Backstreet Boys member Nick Carter. At just 34 years old, Aaron was found unresponsive in his bathtub in his California home. What at first appeared to be yet another story of a troubled celebrity gone too soon has since evolved into something far more unsettling. Aaron's passing seemed to follow a tragic pattern we've seen all too often: fame at a young age, a descent into addiction and mental health struggles, and ultimately, a shocking end. But as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, questions began to emerge. A cloud of suspicion settled over the case, and many started to wonder, what really happened to Aaron Carter? Was this just a tragic accident, or is there more to the story than meets the eye? The details surrounding Aaron's final moments were murky. Conflicting reports, cryptic social media posts, and troubling patterns in the weeks leading up to his death left fans and observers with more questions than answers. Was this simply the final chapter in a long struggle with inner demons? Or was there something more sinister lurking beneath the surface? Today, we take a deep dive into the timeline, the autopsy, the inconsistencies, the theories, and the voices still crying out for justice. This is the mysterious death of Aaron Carter, explained. To truly understand how Aaron Carter's life came to such a tragic and controversial end, we need to go back to the beginning of a story that started in the sunshine of Florida, but would eventually be overshadowed by darkness, isolation, and heartbreak. Born on December 7, 1987, in Tampa, Florida, Aaron Charles Carter was destined for the stage. From an early age, it was clear he was a performer, energetic, charismatic, and unafraid of the spotlight. At just 7 years old, he began performing professionally, first as the lead singer of a local band before striking out on his own. By the age of 9, he had already released his self-titled debut album, and the world took notice. For a generation of kids growing up in the early 2000s, Aaron was more than just a pop star. He was a cultural icon, a poster on the wall, a first concert, a crush, a voice of carefree childhood fun and the American dream of stardom. For millions of millennials who grew up in the early 2000s, Aaron Carter was more than just a pop star. He was a cultural icon. He was the sound of school dances, summer road trips, and the first taste of teen idol obsession for a generation raised on TRL and Tiger Beat magazines. With his infectious smile, catchy songs, and magnetic stage presence, Aaron represented the magic of youth and the dream of stardom. But behind the glittering stage lights, the screaming fans, and the glossy magazine covers, a much darker and far more painful story was unfolding, one that few saw coming and even fewer truly understood. Aaron's family life was anything but picture perfect. The Carter household, though publicly associated with music and success, was riddled with dysfunction, volatility, and loss. His relationship with his older brother Nick, Backstreet Boys superstar and once Aaron's biggest role model, became strained over the years. In 2019, their fractured bond made headlines when Aaron filed a restraining order against Nick, alleging that his brother had threatened to harm him and his then-girlfriend. Nick denied the claims, but responded publicly, stating that he had taken the step with a heavy heart, expressing concern for Aaron's mental health and safety. The emotional distance between the two was undeniable, and fans who had once seen them as a dynamic duo now witnessed the collapse of their relationship in real time. Tragedy also seemed to haunt the Carter family like a persistent shadow. In 2012, Aaron's sister Leslie died from a drug overdose at just 25 years old, an event that devastated the family and deeply affected Aaron, who later revealed that he had tried to help her seek treatment. Their father, Robert Gene Carter, passed away unexpectedly in 2017, another crushing blow to an already fragile emotional foundation. And in December 2023, just over a year after Aaron's death, his sister Bobby Jean was also found dead. Yet another painful loss in a seemingly endless cycle of grief. Aaron made several shocking public allegations against his family, including claims of abuse, manipulation, and betrayal. He regularly turned to Instagram Live and Twitter to vent, often sharing deeply personal and at times erratic thoughts. These live streams, filled with emotional outbursts and unpredictable behavior, led many to believe he was in a downward spiral. Despite the chaos, what stood out most was Aaron's painful honesty about his struggles. He didn't try to hide his issues. He talked openly about his battles with addiction, mental illness, and identity. In 2017, he appeared on The Doctors, hoping to seek help. There, he revealed he was dependent on a dangerous mix of prescription drugs, including Xanax and Seroquel. He also admitted to suffering from eating disorders and said he had dropped to an alarmingly low weight. Visibly frail and trembling, Aaron's appearance shocked viewers. It was a raw and heartbreaking moment, one that showed just how far he had fallen and how desperately he was reaching for help. Aaron later revealed that he had been diagnosed with schizophrenia, multiple personality disorder, manic depression, and acute anxiety. Despite these serious mental health challenges, he made repeated efforts to get clean. He checked into rehab multiple times and on several occasions seemed genuinely focused on recovery and rebuilding his life. But the struggle never stopped. His behavior remained unpredictable. His live streams were emotional roller coasters, at times charming and thoughtful, other times erratic and alarming. He often appeared lost in his own mind, switching from calm to chaotic within minutes. His personal life added to the turmoil. He faced custody issues involving his son, Prince, born in 2021. His relationship with Prince's mother, Melanie Martin, was highly unstable, marked by public breakups, restraining orders, and emotional outbursts played out across social media. It was clear that Aaron was trying to hold things together, but the weight of everything, his health, his past, his fame, was pulling him further into chaos. By 2022, Aaron appeared to be stuck in a cycle, oscillating between recovery and relapse. He was still making music, engaging with fans online, and occasionally spoke about getting help. At times, he hinted at checking into rehab again, giving some fans hope that he was serious about turning things around. There were glimmers of a possible comeback, but behind the scenes, his life was unraveling. On the morning of November 5, 2022, tragedy struck. Aaron Carter was found dead in his home in Lancaster, California. His housekeeper discovered him face down in the bathtub, fully clothed. According to her statement, Aaron had locked himself in the bathroom the night before and never came out. When first responders arrived, the scene raised questions. The bathtub wasn't running, and the water had long since drained. Scattered around were cans of compressed air, commonly abused for inhalant highs, and several prescription medications. Though the scene initially pointed to an accidental overdose, the details were unsettling and left many wondering if there was more to the story. At first, Aaron's death was seen as yet another tragic case of accidental overdose, a familiar and heartbreaking end for a former child star who struggled to find peace in adulthood. But it didn't take long for doubts to emerge. Months later, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner released the official autopsy report. The cause of death was ruled as drowning, with contributing factors listed as difluoroethane, a chemical found in aerosol products used for huffing, and alprazolam, the generic form of Xanax. According to the report, the combination of the inhalant and sedative likely caused Aaron to become unconscious in the bathtub, leading to accidental drowning. It painted a picture of a man self-medicating in dangerous ways, caught in a toxic cycle of addiction, and ultimately overtaken by it. Still, for many, fans, friends, and even family, the explanation felt incomplete. The circumstances surrounding his death raised more questions than answers. But for many, the official story didn't quite add up. First, the bathtub was empty when first responders arrived. If there was no water in the tub, how could Aaron have drowned? That detail alone raised immediate suspicion. Then there was the fact that he was found fully clothed, odd for someone supposedly preparing to take a bath. It didn't fit the narrative. The timeline also raised eyebrows. Based on reports, his body may have been in the tub for over 24 hours before it was discovered. This begged a serious question. Why wasn't he found sooner, especially with someone else reportedly in the house? And then came the issue of security footage. There were reports of missing or unclear video. Some claimed the cameras were turned off. Others wondered if footage had been deleted. No one seemed to have a straight answer. These inconsistencies cracked the door wide open, and speculation flooded in. Aaron's ex-fiancée, Melanie Martin, has been one of the loudest voices challenging the official story. She claims Aaron was being blackmailed by a dangerous group over a drug-related debt, and that he was genuinely afraid for his life in the days leading up to his death. According to her, Aaron had been planning to check into rehab again, suggesting he hadn't given up on recovery. Melanie also released what she says are text messages showing Aaron being threatened. Messages she believes point to foul play. In her view, Aaron didn't die from an accidental overdose. He was murdered, and the scene was staged to look like a drug-fueled tragedy. Aaron's mother, Jane Carter, has also raised serious concerns. She went as far as to publicly share graphic photos of the bathroom where he was found. Images, she says, prove something wasn't right. In her opinion, the scene looked suspicious and potentially tampered with. She has since demanded a second independent autopsy and toxicology report, refusing to accept the initial findings at face value. For her, and others close to Aaron, the story isn't over. They believe the truth has yet to come out. Neither Melanie nor Jane has been able to convince law enforcement to reopen the case, but they remain determined, continuously pushing for answers. When news of Aaron's death broke, fans quickly took to social media, not just to share tributes, but to voice their concerns. Many who had closely followed Aaron's live streams and public struggles felt something was amiss, suspecting foul play rather than a simple overdose. The hashtag Justice for Aaron quickly began trending, with supporters rallying for a deeper investigation. Reddit threads, YouTube documentaries, and online forums exploded as people meticulously combed through every detail of Aaron's life and death. They dissected the 911 call, analyzed the toxicology report, and questioned discrepancies in the statements made by those closest to him. Fans and critics alike started looking for answers, piecing together a narrative that didn't align with the official story. Some theories surrounding Aaron's death are extreme, suggesting that he was silenced because he knew too much about abuse or exploitation within the music industry. Others speculate that Aaron was being extorted, or that someone close to him stood to benefit from his death. While there's no concrete evidence to support these claims, the unanswered questions and the lack of transparency from authorities have only fueled the speculation. The inconsistencies in the story, combined with the absence of clear answers, have kept the theories alive and circulating. Aaron Carter's tragic end isn't an isolated case. The entertainment industry has a troubling history of failing to protect its young stars. Many have fallen victim to the pressures of fame, addiction, and a lack of proper support, raising questions about how the industry handles its most vulnerable talents. The eerie similarities between Aaron's death and other tragic celebrity cases are hard to ignore. Britney Spears' long conservatorship battle, Mac Miller's accidental overdose, and the deaths of Whitney Houston and her daughter Bobby Christina, both found in bathtubs, raise unsettling questions. In many of these cases, a combination of addiction, mental illness, fame, and isolation created a perfect storm. Yet fans argue that these tragedies should not be accepted as simple accidents, especially when the individual, like Aaron, repeatedly cried out for help and showed signs of distress. To this day, no charges have been filed in Aaron's case, and the official cause of death remains unchanged. But the calls for justice are only growing louder. People continue to demand more answers, believing that a deeper investigation is needed, not just for Aaron's sake, but for the sake of the countless others who've fallen through the cracks in the industry. Was Aaron Carter simply a troubled soul overwhelmed by the pressures of fame, loss, and addiction? Or was he a victim of something darker, something deeper and more sinister, something that no one has fully dared to expose? The full truth may never come to light, but what we do know is clear. Aaron Carter was more than just a headline. He was a son, a brother, a father, and an artist, someone who brought joy to millions. He deserved compassion, understanding, and the opportunity to heal. He wasn't just another tragic story. He was a person with immense potential who deserved a real shot at recovery and peace. His life, his struggles, and his death deserved to be treated with the dignity and respect he was often denied. Instead, Aaron Carter died alone, under circumstances that continue to raise questions. The details of his death are still shrouded in mystery, leaving many to wonder whether it was truly a tragic accident, or if something more sinister was at play. Do you think the case should be reopened? And do you believe justice will ever be served for Aaron and his family? If this story has left you questioning the truth, be sure to subscribe for more in-depth investigations into celebrity mysteries, true crime, and the hidden stories behind the spotlight.